Okay, so as mostly all of you have done this module before, I'm just going to introduce this to the new students. So travel art is something that I like to do at least once a year because this is something that brings together everything that we have done through the year in all the different modules of the class. I try to distribute the subjects in such a way that there is something new that you can do, but it needs to have an application. It's not enough to learn art that is only going to go up on the wall. That is just one thing that you can do. But there are like 99 different things that don't go on the wall where you can apply everything that we do in these classes for. So through the year, or through the years now, we have done things like food art, we have done urban sketching, maybe some buildings, and all of these are little bits and pieces which come together in travel art. So if you are a little overwhelmed today, don't worry about it. This is going to be like, like a bonanza of stuff. So I'll try and go as slowly as I can, but bear in mind that many students have done little bits of this in the past. If you find some difficulty, that is just one way that you can identify your hurdles. So keep that in mind. It's not something that you're doing bad and you cannot do. It's something that you need to put more effort in. That's all that we want to identify that as. All right, now travel art. I started doing my travel journals in 2011, and that too because I heard through a friend that her friend would carry a journal everywhere they went and they would document absolutely everything. And then I saw the journals made by this person, and they were absolutely stunning. Now, by stunning, I just mean that each bit of their journey used to be captured in a very caricature like manner. So it was almost as if somebody like a Mario Miranda were to travel, how would they capture their journeys? And that's what just put just the idea in my head that it does not. The one line that my friend told me was, he doesn't care where he sketches. So even if he's at a family dinner, he is sketching. And I thought, okay, I usually don't know what to say at a family dinner. I might as well start sketching. So I started carrying the journal around. And instantly, there was the biggest block that I encountered. I said, what do I start with? I don't know what to start. What do I make? I've never done this before, and I'm not trained in this. So I realized that for everyone who has this romantic idea of sitting somewhere with a sketchbook, beautiful location, you're making these lovely sketches, that is something that we just dream of externally. But when we are in the location, we are paralyzed with fear. And the fear is of just not knowing where to make the first line. So I am hoping by the end of this month, that is something that I will remove. So while we are not in a physical location, we are going to experience most of the locations virtually. Through photographs, you can see practically everything that we will be. All you will miss is the temperature, the smells, the food, mostly everything except the photograph. So we will just use that bit, which is pertinent for our journal making, and move from there. The topics that are chosen for travel illustration can be as varied as your personality. You can work with certain themes that you want to when you're traveling. For example, if you're going to a location that is all about history and all about ruins and all these ancient civilizations and things like that, then the theme of your travel journal can be architecture. It's very possible that are going to a place where it's all about food or different food or exotic foods. Then it can be a food theme stuff. So you can decide on many ways in which you can do the journal. So what we are going to do is, in this month, we are going to track two destinations. One, this fortnight, it's going to be Scotland. So we will do a little bit of architecture, a little bit of culture, a little bit of artifacts, maybe some food, definitely some whiskey. So these are the things that we will do. Just a snapshot, postcard snapshot of what Scotland is all about. And we are going to try and do it as if we are filling a couple of pages of our journal. When we go for the art retreat, which some of you have come to, you don't get this kind of lavish timeline. We will finish at least 4 pages a day. We are going to finish maybe 4 pages in 2 weeks, so you'll get enough time. There will be some places where you might find that I'm either going too fast or you don't understand what I'm talking about. Please stop me and ask me what is going on. Some of the students have been around for almost 5 years now, so they get an idea of what I'm trying to say, and they also know the pace of the class, so they know how to catch up. But for the new people today, please don't worry about them. They don't ask because they either ignore it or they know what to do because they've done this thing before. You need to stop me. I usually track according to the slowest person in class, not the fastest person. The fastest person I can give them guidelines and they can move forward. The slowest person needs to come with me. Okay. All right. So now we are working on an A4 size book, and we are going to simulate a journal out of this A4 size book. So don't bring out your journals for this. We are just going to try and do this on the book itself. So a journal that is good for travel illustration is about an A5 size journal, which is half of this size. So we are going to fold one page up to the perforation mark over here. So we get a page that's about A5 size. It'll be slightly narrower, but that's okay. This is how our books are usually laid out, and the center fold is a spine. So there is a difference in composing a picture in a page that is like this, in a picture like, in an orientation like that with so much space. Our picture can start from the center and spread out like that. The moment we fold it, we have two centers. We have a space in between which needs to be a little vacant so that it does not eat up our illustration. So that is why it's important to decide on the format that you're going to use before you start illustrating, and each format will have a different rule or set of rules for the composition. In a book format, because we are readers of a left to right script, we open our books like this, or we open our pages, fold our pages from right to left. Therefore, our eye first falls on the right hand page. So in terms of direction of how our eye is going to read the information over here, although when we illustrate the book is flat, it is going to be closed and it is going to open for people to read. This is prime realty. Our eye will fall here first, then it will move down, go around, and then come this way. There is a chance that it can do this whole thing like this as well, like a spiral, depending upon what elements you put over here. So if you have a large picture here, a nice bright picture here, this is how your eye will move. That's just how things work. So the most prominent picture you can make on the right hand side. All the text and the smaller images can be made on the left hand side. You can always turn it around also. It's all your journal. So the rules that I'm giving you are not sacrosanct. This is just something that you should know if you don't have any background in layout or graphic design. So first thing we are going to attempt is a small illustration of, I think this is called Calton Hill. Let me just go over the images. We are going to very ambitiously attempt 2 images today. Let's see how that works. So I found this a very beautiful building, and it is manageable because it has got very few features and everything is a repeat. So once you get this composition, you just have to repeat everything. It's a great starting illustration, not too many complications. And the next one is the Toll Booth Tavern. I love making these buildings with brick and stone walls. There's so much texture. So we'll try and make this as well. But we are not going to make it like a three-dimensional building. We are going to use this and make a two-dimensional just facade of this building. Now here's a tip. Normally when we are traveling, we do click multiple images, but now if you're going to click pictures for illustrating, remember to take more than one image of the same topic. That way you have multiple views and you have different kinds of information that you can use to supplement your illustration and complete it. All right, so this one I just have one image. This was the best one I could find and we'll follow that.
Dipti,
Yes.
have you posted the pictures onto a group?
Oh, wait a minute. You will not have them, Elaine, right?
Yes.
I will send them to you. Anyone else? I haven't sent the images to, or you don't have access to it? Okay, good. I will send these to Elaine. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. So, how do we illustrate this? Now, every object has got some kind of internal proportion that we can visualize and calculate and illustrate using just that information. So in this case, what we see is maybe a cylindrical shape, but what is the proportion of the cylinder, vertical versus horizontal? When we use an image or a photograph, we can easily create some dimensions in this by drawing shapes and figuring out the proportions. And I'll show you how you can do this even when you don't have a photograph. So I'm going to start off just underneath the roof and make a square, not a rectangle, because rectangles require two measurements, what is the width and what is the height. But a square is the same. Anywhere you can draw a square, it's going to be the same. And you can proportion things much better. Once I've drawn the square, I'll break that into half. So this gives me a certain idea of how much I can expand further below. And I'm going to check if the rest of the building is this long. If I can just move this fellow, my God, why is it so tough? Okay, damn it. Just give me a second. I'm thank you. Okay, so now we know that our building is 1.5, like 1 is to 1.5 in height, and that bottom line comes just below the first step. So from here to here, we have this proportion. Once you have this and you have one kind of unit, which is a square or half of that square, you can use the same thing to divide further and further and get more smaller and smaller bits. So 1/4 of the original square, and we have the thickest part of the roof. And the same amount above will bring us somewhere over here, just at the base of the tulip. So you see, it is so much easier to see these things. If you can draw these lines in this proportion, Half of your work is done. I'm using some of the same measurements and same elements to figure out the lengths or heights of the other stuff. Again, this fellow, I don't know if he's going to move. Yes. Okay, so the base is a little less than 1/2 of the original square. I'm making all these lines so that later on I can refer to these lines and show you what's happening. Okay, now the next measurement is how far outside is the pedestal. So in this case, I can split the rectangle, the original square into half vertically with a green line. And then into quarters. This also helps us to figure out the placement of some of the pillars. The lines do not have to be exactly where the pillars are, but with reference to the lines, we know where the pillars that we draw can come. And now the last bit. Let's hope that this works. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, while I'm fiddling with this, are there any questions so far? Has everyone kind of got it? New people?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
One question,
Yeah.
we carry our phones with us, right? So, do you know any kind of app where we can mark exact squares or rectangles?
On regular WhatsApp also you can do it, I think.
But I think it's a pencil option, now, so you can't draw exact squares or circles.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
No, it's a good question. I haven't used it, but we can look for something.
Yeah, that's what I'm was trying to look for, some kind of an app where you can just mark the squares and rectangles, you know?
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Let's
Yeah.
keep on a watch out. And if
Yeah.
nothing else, Garima, just find a software engineer and develop it.
Okay. Okay.
You know, you'll get at least 20 people to buy that app.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so we are gonna make uh, the taverns, the picture of the tavern over here. So we will make this little um what is monument on the left side page. We'll also make it slightly small, so those of you who are intimidated by drawing big lines, you don't have to be too scared. Now that we know what our measurements look like, we have some sense of proportion, we can use our fingers to decide where and what size we want to make this particular picture. I'm going to share the screenshot with you so you know what I'm talking about. So that pink square that we made originally is what we have to reference, and that will decide how big our picture is going to be. So if I make my pink square this big, it looks pretty small here, but remember that the pillars of the monument are 1.5 times that, and then you have a big pedestal at the bottom, plus you have a roof as well. So many times people start off with making the illustration on one page. I have done that so often, and then I haven't accounted for the head space, and I have lost roofs or half buildings, which is very frustrating. So let's look at making a tiny enough square so that we can make a square of the same size above and below. So this is no more than an inch. Then I will draw a line horizontally and vertically, cutting the square in half. Then literally using your fingers, you will draw lines above and below. So you start measuring out your space. And no, we do not use scales or erasers. So please keep those away. You don't need precise lines. You need very, these are just an estimate, guesstimate kind of line. So here's how our pillars are situated. This is the square. In the top 1/4, we have that thick wall of the monument that circles around the entire surface. Then you have the roof, which is like a very thin oval shape that goes up to maybe just a little less than 1/2. So you can make a mound here and sloping roof. Then make a U shape on the top that supports another U shape and just 3 bumps. Now, mind you, we are going to assume that we are making this picture when we are traveling, which means that you will have all of 20 minutes to make this illustration, at least just the drawing bit. And then at some point you will probably color it up. 20 minutes is an optimum amount of time. I feel that if you are traveling with family, they will allow you to do what you want to do. Anything beyond 20 minutes, they start getting fidgety, your lines start getting spoiled, you start feeling the pressure. So it's absolutely not worth it. Whenever you're practicing, practice only these 20-minute sketches, because this is also the amount of time you can take out of your daily schedule and just put in a few lines and bank your practice. Okay, these lines that I've drawn on the sides are the base pedestal, and I'm going to draw some multiple lines over here which are going to be receding or increasing circles depending upon which direction you look at them, just above the pedestal, and then come down to the bottom. And normally I like to put in things like these railings. So the railing creates an even larger circle around the pedestal. So I will draw it like this, like a ribbon around it. And then depending upon where this wall ends, you will see some pillars. Just make simple vertical lines to mark those pillars. The pillars on the left will be foreshortened and seen from the side, and they will be at there's a mound over here, that's nice. And then there are flat lines between these pillars, so it's not a circle anyway. Now let's focus on the pillars in the front. You have one pillar coming centrally like this, a little left of center. Then you have one pillar on the absolute edge, And then you have one pillar that is closer to the left on the left hand side and closer to the right on the right hand side. The reason for this is as objects recede, they start coming closer and closer, especially if they're in a circle. So the second to last pillar will be closer to the pillar on the right than to the central pillar. All pillars have got a very beautiful Corinthian capital. The Corinthian capital is one of the three capitals used for pillars. One the styles were called the Doric, which was just a square, Ionic, which had things like these scrolls, and then you have Corinthian, which was they just went to town with decorating their pillars with all these leaves and mostly the acanthus leaf, and eventually putting people's faces and all over there as well. Very beautiful history in pillar design. Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, and all these are, or at least these two are places. So Corinth is a place, Ionia was a place, which is where these pillar styles come from. So in our heads, we look at these pillars and see a lot of decoration, but the fact is that our eyes do not see any of that. So we are going to do a nice scribbly design on this. Right. Here now we have a huge stone carved, I guess, label. So we'll mark that and maybe just mark a tree line behind this. That should do it. So this is our monument. We started off with a square no bigger than about an inch, and look at how much space it occupied. Alright, now those of you who have ink and would like to use liquid ink, can please bring out your dip pens and practice drawing with that. And those of you who don't have those pens, you can use a micron pen to make the details. Please check that your ink is waterproof. There have been few students in previous classes who have forgotten that they have refilled their ink pens with water, not just fountain pen ink, and then when we had to make our washes, all that fountain pen ink just muddied their beautiful illustrations.
Aditi, Sumi is waterproof, right?
Sumi is semi-waterproof, but I wouldn't want to use it on a painting.
Okay.
Okay, how's everyone doing? Do you need me to slow down? Would you like me to wait a couple of minutes? Don't put too many details in this right now because this is just the basic structure and we will put details in pen.
So ma'am, I'm done with the drawing.
Okay?
So now do I use my like a black pen or something to...
Yeah, do it with me. So this is the pen that we're using. But make sure that it is a waterproof pen. So it will say the water resistant, or it will say archival ink or something like that. And if I'm still not sure, just make a few lines in the back of the page and put some water and see if it's indelible or if it is bleeding. Okay, let's begin. This is the fun bit. Once you've done all this hard work, now we can decorate it with these lines. Now remember, the roof is a curve, so don't draw a horizontal line. We'll start off with making a very gentle curve These lines are going to be very artistic, so not too accurate. Don't worry about the lines being accurate. Do not make lines that are scratchy. So if you catch yourself making lines like this, you are on the path to ruin your illustration. Don't do it like that. Even if you were to make a line that's slightly inaccurate, a strong line is much better than however accurate this scratchy line would be. This is like trying to cycle through the Tour de France with training wheels. We don't want that. Okay, now all of these things have got some textures on them. The roof tiles on top, they're not necessarily maybe tiles also, but what they do is create a certain silhouette, a rough silhouette. And without that, our monument starts looking a little unembellished. So wherever you see a line that is not straight, smooth, just make it a little wobbly. You don't have to worry about why it is wobbling as long as you make it wobbly. So even here, there is a little bit of wobble on this lotus-like shape on top, and some designs on top here. I think here also this is like an acanthus leaf. If you can see the details, make it. Otherwise, just a wobbly line is good enough. So while for beginners, part of the problem is drawing. We all know that in the beginning, we are not so confident of drawing. I've also found that we think we see a whole lot of stuff that actually we don't even see. We perceive it, you know that it's there, but you don't really see it. But there's such a huge attempt at trying to make all of that. Right, now there are some indents on this little rim. I love those indents. So those can also be used to create a sense of depth. As those indents come closer to the right and left extremities, you can start making those lines closer and closer so that it looks like it is turning around. I like this line texture on the roof, so I think I'll make it all over. It's radiating so that it looks like the roof tiles are spreading outward. Now, most of these buildings which have old architecture, if you look at the silhouette, they usually are not straight lines, and that is what makes these buildings beautiful. So there will be a few places where the wall will just recede, some places where it will protrude. So you will see this upper niche thing happening, and try to make that, because those are the little decorative elements that separate these old buildings from the rude, shocking modern buildings that we see around us now. As you come lower and lower, this curve will start becoming flatter and flatter. And as I see it, it flattens completely somewhere over here, because we are also seeing this monument from a height. So that the pedestal we see from top, whereas the roof we see from the bottom a little bit. We are standing with our eye line somewhere over here. And you know that because you can see the horizon line of the city behind cutting through maybe 1/3 of the way up the pillars. Right, now we've come to the stress point, the pillars. So these pillars now, all you need to do really is create a scrabbly design on the top, just like that, and give it a base. Right now our curves are all pointing upward. So you have a leaf-like structure pointing outward, and then a tiny leaf again pointing outward from both sides, and that comes in. So this is the silhouette that we have to create, right? And then inside that, if you want designs, you literally just make some scribbles like this, and that does the job. It is so tiny that the brain will register something with the context of this roof, this acanthus fountain on top, and what we are going to proceed to make, the pillars, that this is nothing other than a Corinthian column. Most of these columns are slightly narrow on top and they become wide at the bottom. And then there are these lines running across. We don't make all of them, but you make them only as many as you can make parallel. If you can't make parallel lines, then it won't look good. You should not have those lines crossing over. And now at the bottom, we will complete the oval and finish off the base. So at least the pillars in the front are done. And then we just start making concentric oval shapes down for the pedestal. Here as well, at some points, we have a step that is coming outward a little bit, and then you have the wall of the step receding, next step coming outward a little bit, its step receding and coming straight down. So those of you who have been sketching daily, drawing some object or the other, you will find that this is now going to be a lot easier. Whenever you're drawing concentric ovals stacked up one on top of the other, like plates, glasses, discs, the lines in front will be closer to each other and the outsides, that will be further away from each other. Now before we go any further, let's make these pillars, the boundary pillars. And if you want, you can make the mound. If you have like a grassy spot, I generally would avoid making a flat line. I like to make these little grass like lines. But that's okay. If you want to make a flat line, that's fine too. So we are going to have to make a little bit of a 3D effect on these pillars. But for that, notice how at least the side that is facing us is shaped, just its flat shape. Draw that part first. The further pillars you'll just see like a very flattened image. And to make a thickness on this, you just expand it further. This one is facing us, so we'll probably just see the top. And here it'll be from the left. Make some rectangular bases for these pillars as well. And here again, I'll put a little bit of brass. Once the pillars are made, all you have to do is make the railing. If this is too intimidating, you can omit it, don't draw it. All right. How to divide the space for the railing. Here is where last month's doodle art exercise will have come handy. Start with making a line in the center and then dividing the two halves into half again. So we have equally divided this, and you'll see that there are pillars on, no, like, not pillars, what are these called? Spear-like shapes at these intervals, which are slightly thicker. And then further divide them into half and quarters, and you will have a very, very even pattern. For the grill. I love this. I love it when things just come out very even. And now we can draw the big wall of the pedestal, because if it is going to be obscured by the grill and the wall, it shouldn't be inaccurately drawn. So you finish making all the objects in the foreground carefully so that they don't interfere with the main part. And on this side, it's just a lot of lines very close to each other. That's good enough. Okay, how's everyone doing? Now there are some pillars in the background here, and you don't have to draw them, but you can make something like this. You can just create a silhouette of the pillars. So you can call it their presence. Sorry, Dipti, you want me to wait? Yes, yes, I'll wait, I'll wait. Just make the silhouettes of these pillars in the back and I'll wait. In the meantime, I'll just look for what this is called.
The structure is at the end of the Royal Mile. It's very interesting. We walked up to this edifice.
Oh,
It took a little walking because we got a little lost. It's up Mount Royal, or I think they call it Mount Royal, where the royalty, the palace of the Holyrood Palace,
okay.
sits. So there's a mountain over there, and you have to climb up this mountain, and at some point of that mountain is this thing.
Okay.
I forgot the name. It's just not coming to me.
I'll just do a little digging while you're drawing. I had found its name, but then I lost it.
Dougal Stuart Monument? Or
Sorry?
Dougal, some Dougal or Dougal?
Yeah. So on that it's written, but
Calton
I,
Hill, yeah.
I don't know whether that is what it's called.
Uh, yeah, it is called the.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just finish off this, uh, the compound wall around it.
I found the app. It's called Photo Sketch.
Okay.
I've messaged on the group.
Yeah, I just saw that. I thought, "Arey, I've not made these lines. Where did they
No,
come
no.
from?"
So
Good.
see, you can make perfect squares and circles and rectangles in this, na?
Wonderful.
Yeah. So you can use it on your Android.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Most welcome because I was looking for such kind of an app.
You only found it. Good. Oh, also, by the way, eventually you're supposed to do this without an app and all, huh? Without all this drawing.
That's okay, but like when you don't have time to draw and you find such a beautiful building or anything, you just take a
Yeah,
picture.
I agree. And also, it helps to, in the beginning, to at least do a little bit of that on the picture now that we have all these facilities. Might as well.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, Dipti, how are you doing? Can we move?
So,
Yeah? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm
Yeah?
completely good with it.
Okay, okay. All right. Okay, so now I will just make this little block that they have complete. Putting in pen right now. Then we will erase the lines. So this is the only place we will use an eraser. And here's two things we can do, two options we have. Either we can just draw and paint this monument in isolation, or you can draw a little bit of a silhouette of the cityscape, which means that right on, not right, on its left, we have something like a tower that goes up almost till this point. Then you have some other place which could be that castle that they have, Edinburgh Castle. And then on the right, you have some spires. So this gives some context to the building. But this is again very optional depending upon how much time you have. Okay, to be realistic, we have finished all of this in maybe about 40 minutes. It's already 10:25. So I'm not going to do the second building right now. We'll just focus on this one and paint this. Maybe we might be able to do a little bit on the right because we will have to wait for a wash to dry. So this week, when we all met in Bombay, a couple of things I noticed about everyone's painting techniques, and I'd just like to speak about that for a minute. So most people have come to watercolor painting from other mediums. If watercolor is your first liquid medium, then you've probably used only color pencils, crayons, pastels, something like that, because any liquid medium seems a little scary, because you don't know how much control you have over it. But there's another route that people come to watercolor thinking that it's the hardest medium, because they have tried acrylic, maybe oil. Oil just takes a longer time, it's a little more involved. They have done acrylics and then they've come to watercolor because they've suddenly felt, okay, if I can do it in acrylic, watercolor should not be so bad. But everyone comes to watercolor a little intimidated. So right at the beginning, I want to tell you that whoever has spread this rumor that watercolor is the hardest medium is probably working for a company that makes acrylic colors. It is not the hardest medium. It is very easy to use if you know how to use it. So the two things that people are scared of: what if you make a mistake? Then you can't erase it. These are the two things, and it all has to do with our concept of what is a mistake. So if you give watercolors to a child, they have no concept of mistakes. They will just paint. They are not afraid of watercolors. The older you get, the more art you do, which is not watercolor painting, the more intimidated you are of taking this on, because you think that once you put that paint on paper, that's it. You can't go back. And the reason why people go to acrylic color also is because they feel if they make a mistake, they can paint over it. I cannot believe that that is the reason why we stop ourselves from painting in watercolor. Okay, be that as it may, there is a way in which you have to approach watercolor if you really want to enjoy it. So it's in the name of the medium. It is watercolor, not because it's water based, but water is what helps it flow. Watercolor has the ability to spread through water and pigment, allowing the pigment to stain the paper. That is what it does. All other mediums come and sit and adhere to the paper, but they come and sit on top of it. But watercolor is absorbed by the paper. The water is absorbed by the paper, and then the pigment settles on paper. So there's a little difference. Both watercolor, the paints, and the medium. Wait a minute, I think is my connection a little poor? Am I breaking up?
No, it's okay.
All right, okay. I thought I was breaking up. Okay. So both of them have, I often feel they have a common ancestor. Paper is also made with water first. So it also reacts to water very, very differently than canvas does. Canvas is pretty much impermeable. That is what its nature needs to be so that it can receive acrylic and oil paints. But paper, the moment you put a drop of water in, it comes alive. So when we work with watercolor, when we put our pigment down with water, the paper just comes alive and it's happy to receive your paint. So in this situation, if you take your brush and literally dig the pigment into the paper, it's like taking a child that loves vegetables and stuffing their face with broccoli just because you think that is what children need. So it's a very different way of taking this up. It's the paper saying, I'm happy to take as much pigment as you want. So what we need to do is just lightly touch the paper. You have to aim to stain. So if you make a stroke and it has stained the paper, it's done. You don't have to go over and over and over and over again. We do not need to massage the paper. That's not how it works. Not only does it not work, but it does two very bad things for your artwork. One is it starts pulling out fiber from the surface of the paper. So you start getting these beads of paper on top of your painting and starts looking a little messy. The second thing is that imagine that the pigments are like flat discs, and the moment you put them on paper, those discs go and settle down very gently on the surface. And then you come and plow a brush through so that those pigments then unsettle themselves. So when you see bright color, it's like imagine the pigment is settled flat and the color is bouncing off from the flat pigments. But if they get disrupted, you don't get the entire color bouncing back because they are not sitting flat, they are sitting at an angle. That is what's going to make your pictures look very muddy. So those of you who've experienced this, you've painted something and then it's become not so happy, so you paint again, and then you feel that while it's wet, let me paint it over and over so that I can adjust it. You're doing the very worst thing possible. So you have to let everything dry. You can make 100 layers of paint on top of that, and still your painting will not be finished. So don't be in a rush to try to correct. There is no correcting in watercolor because there is no mistake in watercolor. We are very confident artists. Whatever we are doing, that is our art. Isn't there a line that Amitabh Bachchan said in some movie? हम जहाँ खड़े होते हैं, line वहाँ से शुरू होती है. You have to bring that spirit and say what I do is art. It is not a mistake. So now, keeping all these points in mind, all I'm going to advise you to do is don't rush through the painting. Don't be scared. Once you've made a wash, let it dry. See what is happening. Usually the colors will lighten a good 30-40%. A good way to start also is to not take very, very dark pigment. So mix the water and pigment in such a way that you have a little more water than pigment. Once that water has dried away, you will see the true amount of pigment that has settled on the paper. Once that is completely dried, we overlay with more pigment. Keep doing that. A completely dried pigment does not easily dislodge. And even if it does, it just gets up and sits right back down. Okay. If you want to know how much you should press the brush, ideally, just tickle your arm with the brush. This is how much you should be pressing. If you are in the habit of holding the brush close and doing something like that, this is fine for acrylic paint, definitely fine for color pencil and crayon, but for watercolor, this will start damaging. All right, enough theory, let's go down to practical. So I want to show you how to paint watercolor using washes. And literally a monument like that, especially which has so much color in itself, you can paint in many different ways, interpreting the colors the way you want to. In the photograph, we see that this is mostly like a greenish color in the monument. Everything over there looks greenish, at least in the photograph. Doesn't mean that this is a green monument. But that means that we can mix together things like yellow and blue and create that green effect. We also have the silhouette of the city behind, which is pretty much the same color. And we have a light blue sky. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create two colors. A sky of a light cerulean blue and another wash which will be yellow ochre, that's this one, and I already have some sap green and cobalt blue in this one, so that's yellow ochre, sap green, that's this green here, and cobalt blue, that's this blue here. That's like a slightly deeper, duller blue. Now mostly it's going to be
Aditi, can you repeat that again?
yes, I can. Yellow ochre, that's the primary shade we need, but we are going to tinge that a little bit with sap green and cobalt blue. This is going to be the base color for the cityscape and the building, and even this foreground grass. Okay, new people also keep a rag handy because the correct way of painting with watercolor is dipping in dipping in water, pigment, paint, wipe, or wash, wipe, take fresh water, pigment. So this is a very important part in your painting, the rag. Okay, now this is a very dull.
And can you just repeat? So you put it in the water, put it in the paint, and then you dab it on the cloth.
No, so different times you will have to dab it on cloth. So right now that I'll take some paint, water, washing my brush, there is a whole lot of water in my brush. So I need to control this amount. There's already a whole lot of water in my medium, right? So I need to dab and wipe the brush, and then I can use this medium for as liquid as this is. Otherwise, I'll keep making this more and more liquid. Second thing is, do not keep your brushes in your water container like that because they get damaged. So always keep them outside and flat or upright in a container. And when you are pulling color as well, roll the brush, roll it sideways, pull it backward always. And if when you are mixing, if you can hear a sound like that, you are probably damaging the brush. So it has to be, you can do it very softly. Anyone who has worked with acrylic before, you might find this a little too gentle. Give it a day or two, your hand will adjust as soon as you start seeing results. Right-handed people, please keep your paint and your water and your rags on the right-hand side. Left-handed people on the left-hand side. Sometimes without thinking, we keep our paints where it's most convenient, and that could be on in the front, then it goes to the left, and your hand keeps going back and forth like that over your painting, increasing the chances of damaging your work. All right, now I want you to observe this first. Don't paint with me. I want you to see how to paint this. My colors are going to mix, and I'll show you that it's not going to be a big problem. I have visualized an oval shape around the monument in which I'm going to make the sky. And I'll have some deep color, some light color. Doesn't matter, a sky often has different shades of blue. So I'm just staining the paper very gently. Making sure the sky comes around the buildings. And then I'm taking the other green color and running that through the building and also the cityscape. So the sky is pretty much controlled in a few places, but it has merged with some parts of the city, some parts of the building. That won't be too bad. I can also at this point add maybe even a golden yellow color as a highlight, and just continue to spread this. Now I'm also holding my book at an angle so that this paint will keep flowing lower and lower. I don't have to worry about spreading it at all because gravity will take care of that. And that becomes our first layer. Okay, so I am going to write the color breakup over here so that at least you will, there will be some space left over here for the composition. But since many people are new here today, I will write the color breakup around the picture. You may want to do that, but if you don't want to, that's fine too. So that's yellow ochre, sap green plus cobalt blue.
Aditi, you use the same brush for both the blue and the greenish shades, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So a lot of times paintings are made wet on wet. Some colors will be added spontaneously while your first color is drying. But notice how even with this, isn't it lovely how that little bit of blue that trickles down through the buildings is creating so much of character. I may not have to do anything to the silhouette of the cityscape after this point if I choose not to. So, as far as brushes are concerned, the first washes are usually always made with larger brushes, understandably because the area covered is pretty huge. As you start making the details, you will start reducing the size of the brush. But again, all of these are basic guidelines. Once you become comfortable with the tools and with painting and the outcome, you can paint this whole thing with a big fat brush also if your brush has enough of a sharp point for details. It doesn't really matter. But in the beginning, it's good to know because you don't want to have not even noticed that brush size would make a difference. So when your first layer is drying, you can take a call whether or not the color is looking as it should look, whether you want to deepen it, whether you want to add another shade to it. So if you're satisfied with this, then you can start adding some shadows or a second layer for the colors to become richer. Every layer you put is going to increase a sense of depth, dimension, and also vibrancy of the painting. You don't have to paint every part of the painting every time. So you can cleverly start adding color to other bits. So now, if you guys have finished your wash, again, keep your brushes down. And by now, you should have finished your wash. Any more than this, then you're overworking your painting. So I'm just going to begin so that you guys just stop painting. All right, I have added a little bit of cobalt blue now to this same color to increase its depth. But notice how I'm not adding the cobalt blue to the entire pool of color because I want only a little bit of this color changed. So whenever you're mixing colors, ideally keep mixing shades in a sequence so that at any point you can come back to the original mix. Right, now this is a fairly fat brush, not necessarily suitable for what I'm about to do, so you could use a smaller brush if you want to. Now here I'm going to press my brush a little bit to the right so that I'm going to start with a thin line and then make it fat on the right. Can you see the light stain or shadow that it creates? So I don't want the brush to sit with a big fat blob onto these spots. and I'm painting the right sides of all the elements which are in the foreground. So these 5 pillars that we started out with. Your pillars may not have dried, so don't paint this right now. And also the pillar in the background. I'm painting this entire thing deep, and I'm going to make a third layer over there as well. And then all these vertical lines with just a brush stroke. I'll add the same color at the bottom over here. And all the rest of the details, you can keep doing the same thing. Keep adding a little bit of cobalt blue to the same color. And the color will start becoming slightly different, and you can keep adding more and more depth to the details. There are these circular things that I've forgotten to make, by the way. We'll make them. You can use a pure cobalt blue also. Now again with the colors, I'm giving you the colors that I'm using right now and usually what my color scheme or style would be. But say you want to convert this into a red, and instead of cobalt blue you want to use I guess what are these called, a burnt umber or something, that's perfectly okay, huh? So while I'm giving you a color scheme, this color scheme is just one option. You could paint this monument in a completely opposite color scheme, making it purple and pink and all also. That has to be your choice. So the reason I'm saying this is at the end of the day, the picture's owner is you. If you don't like a particular color, don't make it. The journal is yours. You're the only one it has to please, honestly speaking. And for a change, that's such a relief. You don't have a boss who's dictating that no, this monument is made in this kind of stone, it has to have only these stains. There is no one to govern this. So it gives you absolute freedom to do whatever you want to. So keep looking at the monument and keep adding layer upon layer of this translucent color to create that richness and depth. So in the beginning, you might feel unsure about painting anything and where you want, what you see as a color and what you see as a shadow. So I would suggest just go ahead and paint it and see what happens. Because after all, it's just a painting, it's not brain surgery. So it might look good. You never know until you do it. Many of my successful paintings have come at the end of what I thought was an absolute disaster, and I had totally given up and thought, okay, now I cannot make a mess, a bigger mess than I have already made. And let me just go for it. Of course, I can say that the paintings did not turn out the way I wanted, and I was a little disappointed, but I was not disappointed with what the experiments that ensued. You know what I mean? So the painting had already disappointed me so much that I could not do anything worse. But then I said, okay, now I might as well try out some stuff. And the trial part was very revealing. So from that, then I learned a lot. Okay, now I'm adding more color to just underneath those steps. So, like I said, one thing is knowing what to do, one thing is being able to do it. So, the uh, the other modules that we do help in just these things. Like when we draw things like glasses or artifacts, we are drawing cylinders, we are drawing shadows, highlights. So we pinpoint on a particular item and we draw most of that. And you learn that. Okay, now for those of you who feel confident we can do this, we are going to make the lettering over here if you can. If you can't, forget it. But we can do it in two levels. You can also write in pencil. So the first thing to do is practice drawing this with pencil. Just draw the big round brick-like structure. So we have some vertical and horizontal lines, not horizontal, radial. And pencil is not intimidating. I think everyone is comfortable with pencil. Yeah. So even if you don't paint it, the pencil will create the effect that you want. Even these lines of the pillars, the gray of the pencil is a legitimate color. Just because we use it for rough drawing doesn't mean that it can't be used to create texture. Then we have these elements. So remember, there is a distribution to these. You draw an oval, a broken oval shape right on top of each pillar. The one in the front will look the widest, and the one on the sides will look oval. Sorry, I'm off. And then you can still make one in between. That is the distribution of the design. And you can make this in pencil, it will still look nice. And the last part is the text here. We've just done text last month, so you should be able to do it. Look at the space and see how you can fit in 6 and 7 and 8 letters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It does not have to be readable. This is just me doing extra because why not? You don't have to do it. And if you run out of space, like I have written the word stew and I have no room for art, I'm just going to leave it as stew. It doesn't matter. I'm making a few vertical lines for what I see that as more text about his birth date and death date and all of that. That's good enough. That little bit of line work makes it look more real. Okay. So, this is what you should be able to do in 20 minutes. I'm gonna look for the name of this monument and I'll probably write it somewhere over here or maybe here, upright like that, but not like letters stacked one on top of the other. They will be sideways, excuse me, sideways like this. But I maybe I can show you how I would do it anyway.